I just found out that I have to move again. I have to find a new place to live. And the funny thing, I don't know if you call it funny or interesting, coincidental or whatever, but the same thing happened to me when I was living in Panama. My very first apartment, the owner sold the apartment and told me that I had to move. So here we are in Portugal. The exact same thing is happening again. So, but before we get into that story, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I have a lot of new viewers on my channel, so hey, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. But if you don't know me, my name is Mary, and my channel is all about inspiring, encouraging, and motivating women who are looking for changes or are wanting to do things differently to create the life that they were meant to live. And if that's something that you're interested in, I do have a private community that you can click, or if you have your phone handy, you can scan this QR code that's popping up now, and you can see the link to join my private community. And here's the link. If you are watching on your TV, you can hold your phone up and you can scan the QR code. I'll also have it at the end of the video. I'll also have it posted in the description if you can catch it later on. All right, so let's get started. So listen, one thing about living abroad is that you're going to have to be flexible and you're going to have to adapt to changes. And the reality about being a renter, I mean, this could happen anywhere. This could happen moving abroad and also in the States, where your owner can say, hey, I'm selling this apartment. So that's where we're at. So I signed a 2-year lease as a requirement for the D7 visa that I have. I had to have an apartment lease, a contract. So I signed the lease November 2024. I had a December appointment at the embassy. However, I didn't actually move into the apartment until, I think it was January of 2025. But in the meantime, I'm still having to pay rent. That's just how things work here if you're trying to move to Portugal. But anyway, so I moved in January, getting settled, all that good stuff. And about 6 months in, I get a text from the property manager saying that, hey, Mary, what's a good time? I need to bring somebody by who wants to view the apartment. And I was like, well, what do you mean view the apartment? She says, oh, well, the owner is wanting to sell the apartment. And I was like, what? Wait, what do you mean? So I just had like a complete, almost like freaking out period for a short moment, because I had a flashback to my experience in Panama, which was not a great experience. I will leave the link in the description, and you can watch that whole disaster that happened in Panama. So I had like this flashback, like, oh my gosh, I gotta find another place. I haven't even been here long, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, Mary, calm down. You don't have to move out. They have to abide by the lease. So I was like, okay, all right. But then I was thinking like, oh, wait a minute. Did I like not see this in the contract? I thought I read every word because I'm really good about that. And I said, how come they didn't tell me this? I said, I would have never rented this apartment. I'm looking for a long-term place. And she says, Mary, we had just had a big disagreement about this because they didn't tell me this either. She said, I had no idea this is what they were trying to do. So, but then she was like, but don't worry, because they're going to have a hard time selling this place because most people want newer buildings. Although the apartment is completely renovated, it's a very nice apartment. However, it's in an older building and it doesn't have an elevator. I have 40 steps that I have to climb. So she was thinking, there's a lot of options out here right now for buyers. She says, I don't think you're gonna have to worry about too many visitors. So I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, let me check the contract before I wanted to respond about a visit. Went back, looked at my contract, which was, I had a Portugal and an English section, and I'm reading it line by line. And I get down to visits. And in the contract, in the lease, it states that I had to allow one visit per year to inspect the apartment. So I said, okay. So I went back to the property manager and I said, well, if that person comes in here, please let them know that this is their one visit per year per the lease agreement. And so she went back and told them that. And then maybe 2 weeks went by and they came back and they said, okay, well, we're going to have to amend the lease agreement because we're going to have more than one visit per year. So another month or so went by, and then they came back with an amended lease. And this is the good part that I really appreciated, was that how the Portugal law protected the tenants. And things can vary based on the country that you're in or your situation. But per Portugal law, they could only come, they had what they called business hours. And I believe it was 5 to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, no weekend visits. And I think it was a 48-hour notice that they had to give me. And the thing about this was that I had to agree to any visits. They couldn't just say, hey, we're coming on that day and you need to be there. It was none of that craziness, right? So I felt a little sense of relief, and I was like, okay, this is not going to be just any old time, I only have to worry about these couple of hours, and it's not going to be during the weekend. And so I do have some sort of, this seems to be manageable, okay? So maybe another month went by. And then I get a contact from a realtor, and immediately went totally against the business hours. She said, hey, I want to come, blah, blah, I got somebody to show the apartment. I want to come like at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm like, 2 p.m.? That's not a part of it. So I responded back, and I said, according to the lease agreement, the business hours are 5 to 7. And she said, oh, yeah, that is true. But she said, but if you agree to an earlier time, we can come earlier. So once again, it's up to you to decide whether or not you're going to allow earlier visits. Me, I was like, no, that's disrupting my day. In my head, I already had it set for the 5 to 7. So I replied back to her and said, no, I'd rather stick to the business hours. So you can come between, and I think they came at 5. And I stuck with that particular agreement. She was like the main landlord. And so we developed, not landlord, the main realtor. So we developed like a relationship, okay? And there were a time where she had to pick up her son at school and needed to come earlier, needed to come at 4. And so I agreed to it. I said, okay, no problem. You can come at 4. So I was very agreeable until there was a realtor, I guess because the apartment had not been shown for a while. It's been like quiet for several months, right? And maybe the owners didn't think she was doing a good enough job. So they had hired another realtor. And I got an email from him that said, he was telling me, he said, I'm going to be coming to your apartment to take photos. I will be there either Tuesday or Thursday at 9 a.m. Which day is better for you? And I'm like, what? He's coming where? To take photos? I'm like, what? So I'm like, wait a second. This doesn't sound right. What do you mean? This is all my personal stuff. What do you mean taking photos? Like, I felt like they were trying to use the apartment for staging. I was like, no. So I reached out to a trusted contact and said, is this legal? And she's like, oh, no. She said, You don't have to agree to that, Mary. You can flat out say no. She said, that's an invasion of your privacy. You don't have to agree to that. So once again, there might be laws. Portugal has laws. However, the realtor or whoever will come up to that line and maybe cross it if you allow them to. So maybe he didn't think I had the knowledge or whatever, but to have someone come in and take photos of my personal stuff, no. So I responded back to him and said no, that he was not coming here to take photos, and that was an invasion of my privacy. And because he had CC'd the owners, I did a reply all. So I was like, let me shut this down right now. That ain't happening. So the owners responded back and they said, we understand. Thank you so much for letting us know. And I just had to nip that in the bud. So I think that whatever your standards are, you just have to let people know in a respectful way, because people are going to push the limits if they can, right? That's just, I guess, human nature. But the only thing that I really did not like, now they weren't up here every week. It wasn't like nonstop people running through here. However, I don't like strangers in my space. I just don't. So I did not like people in here. I had to like grin and bear it, right? But what I did do to just ease me being uncomfortable about them being here, because I'm also like a germaphobe. I don't like people touching things, right? So to lessen the things that they had to touch, I made sure all the lights were on. They didn't have to hit switches. My shutters were open. My balcony door was open. Windows were up so they could see stuff, right? And the only thing I think the realtor had to touch was like maybe the laundry room door or the storage rooms. She had to open those doors so they could see it, the hallway closet, stuff like that. Because we kind of developed this relationship. She kind of knew I didn't like people touching stuff, right? So when they would leave, I would put my gloves on and go get my sanitizing wipes, and I would go around sanitizing my apartment. And another thing I made them do when they visit, they had to take off their shoes, or they had to put those shoe coverings on, because the streets are dirty. I don't even wear shoes inside of my apartment. I'm not going to allow people to come in here with a bunch of dirt, right? And they also had to wear masks because it is flu season. People are sick and coughing. And I didn't want people walking around here leaving their air droplets, germing up my place while they were here. So they had to wear masks and had to remove their shoes. And for the most part, I do have to say that people were very polite. They always thanked me, for letting them come see the place, because, hey, they know it's invasion of privacy. And I wasn't like getting out of the way. I stayed like in one spot. Like sometimes I would be up in the office I would be upstairs in the office while they were downstairs viewing the apartment. And then sometimes when I was feeling, a little crappy, or just feeling like, you guys are annoying me today, I just sat right here at my dining table, like right in the middle of the apartment with my laptop. It was like, because it was like, if y'all see me sitting here, you won't be in here lounging and talking. You'll view the apartment, you'll get the heck up out of here. So, because one time I was upstairs in the office and I was like, what are they doing? They still downstairs? So I literally went downstairs and said, what's going on? She said, oh, we were just talking. I'm like, well, can you finish the view and you guys can talk outside? Because I'm like, oh, no problem, Mary, no problem. So I decided from that point on I would be more visible. And that way they'd be uncomfortable too, I guess. So anyway, so that's where I am right now. So moving abroad has challenges. You got to be flexible. You got to adapt to changes. My lease ends October 31st, so I can legally stay here till October 31st. They are not going to renew the lease because it was two people on a Friday, two realtors came here at one time with clients, and the main realtor was here with another girl and some other realtor. And I hope the main realtor got to sell, because shortly after that, they were like, okay, we accepted an offer. But I don't know who got to sell. But my lease ends October 31st. So I can legally stay here until then. However, I did reach out because I was like, okay, well, eventually I'm going to start looking for an apartment. What if something comes up sooner? So the owners are very agreeable to me moving out earlier if I need to. And I thought the buyers would be happier with that too, because they get access to the apartment sooner as well. So it's like a win-win for everybody. But I didn't want to mess up my deposit, right? So I didn't want them to say, oh no, you left before your lease, we get to keep your deposit. So I was like, well, let me be clear on all of this. So I think because, I show the apartment, and I know, the realtors probably told them, oh, the apartment is spotless, it looks really good. I'm sure they got that feedback. So they're very accommodating with me wanting to leave earlier if I find another place sooner. So that's where I'm at. So if you are navigating change and looking for some support from other like-minded women that are doing the same, you can join my Reclaim Your Life community. I'll put the link in the description, and it'll also be in the pinned comments. And if you want to support my channel, it's a free way to support. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. And if you know someone who this information might find helpful, you can share the video as well. Oh, and also, because I'm at the beginning of this process, let me know in the comments if you want me to take you along the apartment hunting process, all the things that I need to do and prepare and viewing apartments, all that good stuff. Let me know if you want to see those type of videos. Let me know in the comments, and I'll take you guys along if that's something that you want to see. But I found this out this week, and I decided that I'm just going to sit with it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to be calm about it, because that's all I can do. And the thing about it is, I don't know if you guys had heard me. I was talking about these 40 steps that I had to climb anyway. So I was not going to renew the lease anyway. So now I know I got to find a place. So, but the good thing about it is that I'm living here near Center City, Porto. I can move on the other side of town. I can move near the beach. I can move across the bridge, Gaia area. So now that I've been here, I kind of know the different areas. So I'm kind of looking forward to finding another place. And I will make sure that's a long-term a place where they're not trying to sell it. But anyway, I'm running off on a tangent. But thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope you are doing something good for yourself today. All right. Ciao, ciao.